I'll scramble it up. All right. So anyways, I'm JeremyMio. I'm the Security and Research Manager for Cuyahoga County. Some of you have probably seen me around. I do a lot of stuff with InfraGard. I used to work at the James Smucker Company doing IDM, identity management, access, down from a development standpoint, doing Java connectors, C, computer science background. I got some criminal background as well, both in the learning and practical experience. So I've done a lot of criminal identity research around the world, mostly in the European and United States, Canada. So I find myself in public sector. Do we have any people in the public sector in the room? So I know we got Kent State, Bedford Schools, and we got in the back. If you want to say federal, all right, awesome. Won't say too many things. So I do a lot of stuff through, as I mentioned, InfraGard. I was on the board of InfraGard for a while. Now I'm the sector chief with the sector chief program that is trying to have some meaning, and very active in the community. So going forward, I'm going to kind of jump through these slides, and really it's going to be discussion based. I really want from this group what we can do, what we should be doing, what you guys want to do to participate, if you want to participate. A lot of other county, more so on the state side, have community CERT teams they're starting. Michigan has a cyber response team that has community members on it that volunteer if there's a large state emergency, as well as I think California has a couple groups. They go around, they help municipalities that don't have full IT teams, or obviously money to hire, Secure State every year or somebody to do a pen test, and then they can't really do anything about those pen tests, and they can't hire external services to monitor. So a lot of getting the community involved and volunteering some time. I mean, a lot of it's your tax records there, right? So we at the county only have the property taxes, but on the city level, everybody probably. Hopefully people have heard. Anybody live in the city of Akron? Right, so you guys, I assume, got notified about a year ago? No, not property taxes, so this is city tax. I think it was only, I'm not sure how large the breach actually was, but they got hacked by a Turkish group. Yeah, last year. I hope we got notified. No, actually they didn't. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure the exact, but I know the CIO gives presentations about it. He gave one at InfraGard. So that was, I think, a basic SQL injection. Going back to the last presentation, that was a SQL injection attack. Very, very unsophisticated attack that got access to all their tax records. So going a little forward, I usually talk to the municipalities about cybersecurity. DHS says it's important. Barack Obama said it, so they should probably listen to me. Going through our initial mission, this started in 2013, and that was when I first got hired on, when I made the transition from Smucker over to Cuyahoga County. We wanted to explore how local resources we could use local resources to help support municipalities anyway, even if it's just an aggregate of data, one-stop shop for them. We kind of revised the mission more so around knowledge and awareness. We're trying to more so focus on more of the objectives and the deliverables we can give to them. We can kind of go to and talk and just do awareness-based presentations all we want, but do we offer them framework? Do we offer them some kind of SANS top 20 critical controls form to kind of this little checkbox they give them so they can go and check all their systems? What do we really do, right? Here's some of the proposed ideas in 2013 from some of the, I would say, think tanks we went to. We did a presentation with some of the InfraGard members. Gary Sheehan, I think, it was actually in this room. I think it was in this room. Wow, look at that. 2 years later. So We looked at what available resources, summarizing them in the area. Even these groups, a lot of people don't know of these groups. I mean, obviously they don't market a lot, but if the cities knew we had these kind of groups, or InfraGard, or the ISC Squared, they can go, they can come, they can see security-like stuff, kind of get their mind into it. We talked about building simple frameworks, kind of taking down the top 20 controls, going down to the top 5 or top 4, and kind of putting it around municipality speak, and then building some FAQs, example scenarios, so they actually see some of the impact, like using the city of Akron for a scenario, an example, especially getting the mayors involved. A lot of these, going to a lot of these shops, we tell the IT people, and they're like, that's what I've been telling my mayor the whole time, is how important this is, and we have no budget to do anything, right? So it's really getting the top-level executive, just like you would in a private sector, and getting them involved. We launched a new website. Apparently there are some errors on it, some small typos, but we actually did win a national award. We got Best County Cybersecurity Website in the nation out of all counties. Little fun fact about some of the Cuyahoga County here. We're the 26th largest county in the nation. We're the largest one in the state of Ohio. And we have a pretty big infrastructure. We connect in, we have our own internal 10 gig fiber network that runs about 16 miles. And then we connect into the ORNet, which is a 100 gig state network. So it's pretty interesting. You usually think of some public sector programs and you think small budgets, nothing, they don't have a lot of stuff the private sector is. I wouldn't say the technology is all the way up there with the private sector, but the infrastructure and the vast amount, even though it's only in a centralized county, maybe not worldwide or global or nationwide, but it's still pretty large infrastructure. Especially all the systems we have to connect into. We have to connect into the FBI CGIS systems. We have to connect into DHS systems, depending on our resources and the things that we have to offer or even municipalities as well. So we support a lot of municipalities from a website perspective. I think we support about 10 or 15. Do we host your guys'? Oh no, your guys' school, right? Bedford's.
School.
Oh, school. Okay, not the city. I think we host the city's website. So we don't outsource a lot of things. We have a whole inside team. So we're doing a lot of things at the county, more than you would think. Some of the stuff when we're talking about action items in 2013, we talked about summarizing resources. Some of them were the local groups, so we even have the NEOISF, as you see there. We have it links out all the websites. And we have the Northeast Ohio, we have national. So, going in one-stop shop, I know you ask a lot of people here, is there any website you can go to see all the security organizations in the area? Especially, you can't really find me. Maybe there's some kind of meetup, like aggregate website that has that, but does anybody know?
I can tell you that there's no meetup for it.
Or not a meetup, but I don't know, some kind of
There's a lot like yours where there's
something like this.
But this might not be comprehensive.
Yeah, and mine's not probably comprehensive either.
The only thing closest is Northeast Ohio Tech Events.
Oh, okay, like something like that, right? Okay, yeah. So we also orchestrate our website to be the kind of segregate the citizens, business, government. We even did a thing with cyber laws. I think I have some interesting RSS feeds coming from Stanford Law, Cyber Law Institute. It's pretty interesting, some of the random stuff. Not all very relevant, but some of it's very obscure. Interesting. So some of the other things we talked about is a possible framework. Not to get into this too much, but we went through this. We started asking some municipalities, and they pretty much came down to this. Okay, you give us a framework, we still don't have any people to do it. You can give us the best stack of materials, and we still can't do it. We can barely run our email servers, right? I mean, they're literally the amount of resources they're expected to serve, and then have all the systems, their IT resources in the most places. I mean, even if you go to a small city, that only has a very small city government, they're still supporting, services for all those citizens, especially if you talk about all the SCADA systems and everything like that. And you probably only want to get into a lot of this, the SCADA system security, and and the budgets aren't that big, but you still have to have service for all the citizens, right? So the ratios are very interesting. We luckily though, the DHS and how many people know the CIS, Center of Internet Security? CIS benchmarks, maybe they probably familiar with. Do you know anything else about the CIS other than the benchmarks? Anybody? So the CIS have benchmarks. I was actually going to mention, per the last presentation, the CIS actually has benchmarks for SQL Server. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the CIS benchmarks.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, so they have benchmarks. They're like configuration guidelines for any and all systems. They have a lot of systems in there. Usually a lot of the SIM providers, like Qualys, NetIQ, maybe Splunk, I'm not sure, but they all have, all their configuration, hardening toolsets actually come from the CIS benchmarks, but it's an automated section. Yeah.
DoD is real big in that, and NHTSA.
Exactly. So to get into that, I'm sure it's federal guy, CIS, familiar?
Yeah.
So CIS, Center of Internet Security, it goes through, it's government funded through probably multiple sources, but from what I gather, through the DHS. And they have the ISACs. Anybody familiar with the ISACs? Some of the information sharing analysis centers. They're specific to groups, so they have the healthcare ISAC, they have the financial ISAC, the FS ISAC is probably one of the most mature ones, I think maybe even the first one. ICS that's a newer one. Yes, it's great. Yeah, so the ISAC that I'm a part of, and I'm part of some of the national co-chairs, is the MS ISAC, the multi-state ISAC, and they offer crazy amount of free services. They even monitor some of my all my outside public domains for me for free, for being through the DHS grants they have. Then the FS ISAC has gone so far to they literally have built threat tool sets, threat intelligence tool sets, to be able to host in your environment. It maps all your stuff to, I think, sticks or taxi formats, which is the standard threat, almost like XML formats to report back, forth, share data, be able to see incident of compromise, and other things like that. There's also the open IOCs as well. I believe they use the sticks and taxi platform. I'm not sure. Anybody familiar with threat management? Yeah, so do you guys use something I'm sure you guys probably use all that stuff, or you look at that stuff daily, right?
US cert.
Yes, US cert, so yeah. Right. Yeah, right, yeah. So getting back to this, they started the cyber hygiene program for municipalities. They're offering those frameworks. Pretty much what they're doing is they're not copying, but they've went through the NIST framework, I think the Australian pretty much critical controls, and they have the SANS critical controls in there, and they pretty much did the top four or five, and it's pretty much count, configure, control, patch, and repeat. So it's just like the top 4 or 5 SANS critical controls. They're going to go through that and make all the pre-documentation we're going to do for the municipalities. So we're dovetailing off of that and going to offer those to the municipalities, but that's not our main problem. Our main problem with the municipalities is not them having resources. So some of the other things that we talked about here are workshops. Talked about hosting workshops. So imagine something like this that was a little more hands-on, and we invited a bunch of municipalities to it, and we just sat them in a room, and we literally hands-on them about anything. Some of the things that I have is a cyber hygiene program, so pretty much top controls, or security posture 101. Some of these municipalities don't even have IT shops. They're completely outsourced. So they rely on the outsourced company, and they don't care about the security or anything of it, right? And that's all your guys', maybe not your guys', but someone's data. All the citizens' data, and they have no, I'm not saying they have no, but usually they don't really have any auditing on those cloud vendors or those security services or anything. I bet you Secure State probably goes from municipality to municipality around here. I don't know, maybe not. yeah, can't speak on it, but so maybe there's some of the managed services here. I don't know, but so really letting them know what they should be auditing, what the questions they should be asking those vendors, and then some of the specific things are we get into government, public sector. We have COOP plans. They're pretty much BC and DR plans, business continuity and disaster recovery plans, but they have a different meaning because they're usually around natural disasters and public safety. So usually public safety actually owns the business continuity plans in a lot of public sector entities, which is very interesting from an IT perspective. They're kind of the enterprise risk management team, as well as with a law. If there's a law department within that municipality, usually there's some kind of risk team there, but they're all looking at, not really looking from an IT perspective, from a data loss or a impact or anything. Some of them now, I think now the states are required to have cyber annexes, which is just an annex on top of a disaster recovery plan, is what happens when all that stuff goes down, who has primary authority over communications. And now they were like, oh, wow, we should probably include IT in that now. So that's only been in the past couple of years that they started including IT in some of the disaster recovery and planning on a state level. And on a county level, it's not really even enforced yet. A lot of larger counties do it, which is great, but some of the cities, I'm not sure how it works. I can't speak on how the cities work, but it's something that has to be looked at, and a lot of it's coming down from FEMA and kind of structuring down. Some of the other interesting stuff is some of the open source security. So a lot of municipalities have no budget, but they could look at, Snort or Suricata or some of the other open source technologies, and they could actually set up some pretty good environments from an open source perspective. Yep.
I remember from one of the InfraGard meetings, they talked about a regional for the state of Ohio.
Regional.
Disaster kind of recovery thing. But with regional coordination, police, fire, whatever.
So from an IT perspective or from a disaster?
They include IT.
So I do know they have that from a disaster perspective, especially with a lot of the stuff going on nowadays. So they do have a regional disaster or I guess COOP plan. From an IT perspective, that does not exist. I know a lot of states have been trying to support each other. For example, Montana, which is actually very interesting. Montana serves as a complete backup for Oregon, and Oregon serves as a complete backup for Montana. So they're actually real-time hot sites. So Montana CISO and the Montana actual security program is very mature, and they can actually, the whole state can literally disappear and they can be still functional from a critical business perspective. So it's pretty interesting. They test that yearly. It's a very interesting test on a public sector side. I think also Los Angeles County, they have about 300 plus data centers just in their county. They're very large. Their overall budget's like $28 billion. But they have all hot sites for all their 300 plus data centers. Very interesting as well.
Remember August 2003?
When the blackout, is that? Yeah. So
How do you take care of that?
exactly, right. So
Excuse me?
candles, right.
How does that run IT? Excuse me.
All your users' computers are off. What do you care?
Yeah, so from an IT perspective, we have mobile communications that could run. I don't know how long, if it would run that as long as that blackout, but it would run a good amount of time. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if that happened during when property taxes were running, right, or when citizen tax data was running, I mean, it would probably, when it hard crash, but it would definitely have to, batteries, UPS systems would eventually run out, right? So we do have, I know all of our data centers have generators, so we can run for as long as we put gas in it. So we would probably, we'd be okay. But a lot of from the city level, I don't know if the cities have that. So.
You guys have mobile satellite service?
So all of our sheriff has those, and we actually can touch into those from our from our IT perspective. We have just because being in a public entity, having a law enforcement agency attached to your organization, it serves very well. So we have we have a lot of pretty interesting capabilities from a satellite mobile command center. We have multiple mobile command centers from a SWAT perspective or anything. We can use those for IT as well. And they do have separate even giant Pelican cases for communications in remote places with no actual trailer or anything attached to it. So also some of the interesting things is how the security sunshines. We have Ohio sunshine laws here, public records. So when you talk about public sector things, probably very different than the private sector. So everything, most stuff's public record. I want to be very light when I say that because I don't want to have a bunch of public records requests when I get back. But a lot of stuff is public record. A lot of the security-centric stuff obviously is protective, rightfully so. But a lot of stuff is public record, meaning that we have to keep a lot of records. For instance, our health records and our fiscal records for all the property, we have those back literally until the papers crumble. We have giant buildings with warehouses of records dating all the way back to the 1910, 1920 time frame. So we have to keep all those records, and then we eventually, I don't know the exact mandate, but we have to go back and we have to make them electronic. So we have to scan those in. Right? So there's a lot of material. So a lot of municipalities and a lot of counties actually don't understand those laws and what's protective. So a lot of the things they give out in public records shouldn't be public record. So for instance, say security vendor X wants to know exactly all the security systems that municipality is using. What's a public records request? So you do have to give some information, but you don't have to give all the information. I can't tell you how many, some of the things I've seen go past IP addresses and whole ranges, network architecture, specific diagrams that go across and are labeled in RFPs when they want to do a refresh. That's not good, right? You can tell, you have to tell them, you have to fulfill the public record in some point, in some form, but you don't have to give out, your entire data architecture, right? So it's very interesting space with that. That's the end of this presentation. Usually it's more of a different, but I really want to discuss what are the things that you guys think that you guys could do or want to do, or what you think should be done from a municipality level, or even from a school. I mean, any public sector, small public sector entities in the county or even in other counties as well. Some of the things that were suggested at the summit when I gave this presentation, because we had some federal guys in the room. I think we had the head of the cybercrime out of Cleveland in the room when I gave this presentation last, and he used to be located in Boston, I believe. Baltimore it was, and they actually set up the county or city, I think it was the city of Baltimore, set up a SOC team for municipalities. So they actually set up a security operations service, somehow funded through a nonprofit to get some of the funding balances, and they literally had universities or even people in the community with valid credentials either volunteer their time. And a lot of the companies, so for instance, like, Hack for Charity or the Canned Food Drive or something like that, they kind of lumped it into something like that you would go in and do a couple days at the SOC and maybe learn something, or from an academic perspective, from a capstone, they would have some interns or students within the master's degree program or something go over and do some stuff like that. So I thought that was an interesting concept. I don't know where that concept is now.